actually finishing it today. And I'm up in the attic in a crawl space. And, years ago, I had an old stuff that I saved from when I was a kid. My mother saved it. She never got rid of it. Really cool things.
So so it's your Babe Ruth card?
No, yeah, right. No, but she did. She's the Buffalo Evening News in like 1973 ran a full page like French Connection thing with the three guys and hockey sticks, and it was all orange, and all it had on top was the Buffalo Evening News and a date. She knew that I loved that when I was a kid. She very carefully folded up, saved it. I framed it now. It's gorgeous.
Oh, that is so cool.
But I had an old helmet, and I'm like, geez, I wonder why, it's not the Bills colors. And then I'm flipping through some other old book that I find last week that the very first year that the Bills were in the league they had the colors of the Detroit Lions.
Right. Yeah.
Because Ralph Wilson was a part owner, I believe, and kind of brought those colors. And then when Saban got here, he was like, why are we in those colors? You got to have a buffalo on the helmet. That's when it changed. So I'm digging around, and what do I find? But
oh my gosh.
It's just a kid's one, but I always wondered, I wonder why it's silver. And there you go.
Sure enough.
But it's an old schooler, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah, isn't that incredible? I love that.
People that aren't from Buffalo will never believe you when you tell them that's an old Bills helmet.
That's an old Bills helmet.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
here we are. And you are, obviously one of Buffalo's most favorite sons, and you are always here in one way or the other, giving back one way or the other. And, you're certainly one of the most vocal Bills fans and Sabres fans out there, native to Buffalo, that's on, sort of a global stage. So lots to talk to you about, but obviously let's start with the Bills. You have had some air quotes downtime recently. So more time for you to, I guess, stress about your team, huh?
Hey, listen. All right, let's just talk about the beginning of this season.
Yeah.
First of all, I got a couple of things to talk about when it comes to the beginning of the football season. One is that I enjoyed coming into this season with nobody really paying attention to the Bills. Not really. It's the Joe Burrow's life. It's the Patrick Mahomes. It's everybody else because of the Cincinnati game. Bills can't do it. I'm not going to say that, and they talk about, is our window gone? It's like, it's just such speak. And it's just like, what do you mean window? Is Josh Allen, is he going to have turnovers? So then we have our game against the Jets. And I told all of my Jet buddies, I said, listen, listen, on 9/11, on the anniversary of 9/11, it's like you guys won the game. Okay, I'm okay with that. But your best player on the field was Josh Allen. He didn't have a great game.
Right.
It's it. But you're talking about your defense, your all-world historic defense. They're no better than the Bills' defense. And it was shown that game, went to an overtime. That's, were a tripping penalty. And then I believe 3 fines were levied against Jets guys because of that play, like cheap hits. There are 5 referees on the field. Nobody saw any of that. Come on. Anyway, it is what it is. The Jets deserve to win that game. We didn't have our finest hour. So now you get back to my mini rant about the NFL and sports writers and that, because I can't stand that we're at like halftime of the first game of the season and everybody's starting to talk about who's the MVP this year. I'm like, can we finish the game? And it's game 1 out of an 18-week, 17-game season. Come on, give us a break. Unfortunately, now I'm segueing into the Bills now that I got off that. Because, even after that first week, I read what the sports writers are talking about that. And there's one guy out there saying, what a travesty Josh Allen is. I'm sorry, did I get that right? A travesty?
Right.
No football player in the history of the NFL in his first 5 years has put as many touchdowns on the board. Travesty? Josh Allen, to me, mistakes or not mistakes or whatever, and it's part of, listen, this game against Washington, who completes that pass when you're falling out to the
Oh,
outside to
such a good
Stephon Diggs?
play.
Who completes that? Now, some guys get out there and they're going, reckless, he's reckless. Well, he may be reckless, but that is who he is. And he will attempt things that other guys wouldn't do that. And make no mistake about it. I mean, what's Josh's record in the last 3 years? I don't know, 36-12 or something.
Yep.
Yeah, he throws caution to the wind sometimes. But man, I'll tell you, more often than not, he can back it up. And I'm just so happy to see that he's finding his footing. And I'm not one of these people that ever thinks that he lost his footing. Every football player has a game like that first.
That's right,
one.
for sure.
And honestly, Josh, he has one of those. We had one last year in the playoffs. Unfortunately, that was the end of last year. That Jets game was the beginning of this year. All right, so we got that out of the way. Let's just go forward right now. Dolphins are the next thing.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know what the Bills did the last 2 weeks? They did exactly what they were supposed to do. They stomped on the opponents they were supposed to stomp on, right? So, I mean, they stomped on the Raiders, who stink. They stomped on the Commanders, who, let's be honest, stinks. They got a young quarterback with virtually no starts under his belts coming into the season. So they did what they were supposed to do. And now, I love the fact that Miami's getting all the pub. I mean, deservedly so. You score 70 points in a game. I don't care who it's against the NFL. You deserve high praise, right? 726 yards total offense and 8 touchdowns rushing. That's bananas. So you deserve all of that, certainly. But keep pumping it their way and don't talk about the Bills at all. I love that, because then the Bills come out and all of a sudden they win and surprise everybody. And like, oh, where did these Bills come from? That's great. I'll take that all day.
Yeah, me too. Everybody and their brother is going to take Miami this weekend. They're going to take Miami after that big performance down there. And I have to tell you, I didn't watch the game against the Broncos because it was going on the same time as the Bills game, but I did catch the San Diego game. I'd still call them San Diego, the Chargers game. And I did catch the Patriots game. And that was their second opponent, right? The Patriots?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, for the Dolphins. And Chargers should have won. Patriots could have won. And then they played the Broncos. Anybody that thinks that they're coming to Buffalo to slap down 600 yards of offense or 700 yards, it's a reality check here. Is it going to be our biggest test? It might be one of our biggest tests of the year. I really think that, and it's hard for me to give this one up. I'll throw praise on anybody. I like good football. I like good players, but I'm still old school enough to think that if the Bills go 2-15 and both wins are against the Dolphins, it was a pretty good year. So I'm coming home for this one.
Awesome.
This weekend. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I gotta, if I catch one game a year, and I'll catch more than one, but and I'll see them when they're out here playing the Chargers, but I gotta be in the stadium on Sunday. I have to be.
Yeah. I mean, and there's nothing like, because I think there was a time, certainly, during the playoff drought, when you kind of, if you're not good, you can't really have a rival, can you? Right? If the other team that was your rival is so much better than you really can't have that rivalry. Now, both the Dolphins and the Bills seemingly are good. So now you can kind of, I don't know, reinvent that rivalry. Am I wrong?
Oh, no, absolutely. And I think, post Brady years, all we wanted to do was beat them, and barely beat them over 10 years. And the Jets are always the Jets. And, I don't mind the Jets. Just, you just have to deal with the Jet fans.
Right.
which are a lot of my buddies. A lot of my buddies. The Jets think every year they got Aaron Rodgers, and I gave a buddy of mine out here who's from Long Island. I told him, I said, I'm going shopping right now to buy you silver polish. He's like, for what? I said, well, for the Super Bowl you're going to win. You've been telling me about it. I mean, I actually thought I did. Come on, did I think that was funny? Not funny against Aaron Rodgers because you saw that extension on that ankle, and it was like, but it was interesting though because when he sat up and somebody went to get him up, and he went, he's old enough, been around enough to know this is not happening.
Yeah.
But I did, it wasn't lost on me or anybody else that the 3-hour pregame show, 2 hours and 40 minutes of it was the Aaron Rodgers second coming. And then 4 plays into the game, God bless him and his recovery, but he's out. And then when we get to halftime, it was fascinating watching everybody not really know what to talk about because all you talked about, you didn't talk too much about Josh, a little bit about the Bills, but everything was the Aaron Rodgers show. And then it wasn't. So now they have Zach, and they're having a hard time.
And they stink, right? I mean, he's terrible. He's legitimately terrible. They missed on that, and unless they get somebody in his place, they're cooked, in my opinion.
I mean, I told my wife all the time, because she's, my wife is from Massachusetts. Took me like 18 years of marriage because I was like, listen, you want this marriage to work out? You got to come over to the light, baby. So now she's a Bills fan through and through. But she tells me sometimes, they're just so terrible. And I said, no, hold on a second, honey. Everybody that plays in the NFL, like Major League Baseball and the NHL and the NBA, they're pretty much the best player that played on every team they've ever played on. These guys are good. Zach Wilson's got talent. Who knows sometimes when the cards just don't work out? I mean, I've who knows? I mean, look, we went and got EJ Manuel. We just thought he was the guy, and he just wasn't the guy. So I don't know. I mean, I really, who I feel for with the Jets? I feel for Saleh, the coach. I mean, it seems like a good, likable guy, down to earth and everything. And man, I watch him in these interviews now, and he's kind of like he doesn't know what to say. Do you have a problem at quarterback? Maybe. He just doesn't know what to say, and I feel for him. That's a tough place to be.
Yeah, well, it's always a tough place to be in New York when you're a pro sports team or a pro athlete. That's for sure. So what do you make of the Dolphins? I mean, clearly we have to take them seriously. They clearly have
got to take them seriously. I mean, Tua was 23 of 26 last week for almost 400 yards. I mean, he's accurate. That it is interesting though in his career. Go look at his numbers when he plays the Bills. It's not like it was last Sunday. And, I went to that game last year, and that's where the one that they moved to the Saturday night game, right before Christmas. And, Dolphins are real, and they apparently have gotten better than last year. I think, and it's just my opinion, and I am not a medical guy. I worried for Tua last year. I don't know what decision was made. I've heard all the things that coaching staff has said with the Dolphins and everything, and I have no reason not to believe these guys. But saying, he had a leg cramp or something. No, he was so wobbled that you put him back in the game, and then he had the situation happen with Cincinnati. That's pretty close to, I don't know. Seems reckless to me.
Yeah, careless. Yeah, sure.
And it really could affect his. Now, they got a heck of a team around him, and he can get rid of it. He's got amazing receivers, amazing running backs. It's just everything about that offense is just firing right now. But boy, I'll tell you something. He takes a good hit from somebody, and I wonder where that's at. I'm not wishing for that at all. I don't wish that on anybody, but I wonder about that. I will tell you this, that, you know, I mean, I'm always going to put Buffalo at the top of my shelf because that's what I want to believe in. But I just think the Dolphins are as good as it gets right now in football.
Yeah, you don't get much of a better test at this point in the season. And
you really don't.
yeah, and the first quarter's coming to an end. And it's been a weird first quarter, right? I mean, everybody thought Dallas, and Dallas gets beat by the Cardinals. Really? I mean, it's just the way Houston goes down and they kill the Jaguars.
Yeah, I mean,
Indianapolis
and
almost beats Baltimore.
It's not even like they got him by a field goal.
Right.
Beat him.
Yeah. I mean, the league, obviously there's a lot of parity in the league. And so that is showing its face. When the Rams are really good and then they lose to the Bengals and the Bengals get their first win. And then Cleveland's kind of all over the place. And of course, Chubb's injury was so horrible and you had to feel for him too. What happened with him, but what's Cincy? What are the Chargers? The Chiefs are kind of the Chiefs, but they're not. Yes, they killed the Bears, but the Bears are terrible. They might be the worst team in football. So it's really hard to read. Philadelphia is still, they're unbeaten, but I don't think they've even hit stride, not even close. So, there's a handful of teams. San Francisco, great, obviously, both sides of the football. They look to me to be the best team in the NFL right now. But beyond that,
I think my big surprise with the Niners is, and I got a good buddy out here, a wonderful writer, and he's a Niners fan, and so we're always texting between Bills and Niners games. And I think the big shock for me, I love to see a story like Purdy when he comes up last year, and all of a sudden he finds this groove, and you know what? This is good. But he's bringing it back again. That's a very rare circumstance. We're talking like sitting on a bench that you come in and you're the star or one of the stars of that team. And he's rolling along.
Wait, hold on. I see the wheel spinning. I see, hold on, crystal ball. There's a script being written.
They just made it. It was the Kurt Warner story.
That's right.
You can only do one every once in a while.
That's funny. That's right.
Let me ask you something. So Jacksonville has a London game this weekend.
Yeah.
Then they have us next weekend.
Yeah.
Does Jacksonville come back to Florida, or do they get to stay in London for the 2 weeks because they have back-to-back games?
I don't know that for a fact, but I would have to assume that they're going to stay there. I just think it's
right.
Too big of a time change. Yeah.
I know these guys are all young and everything, but time change ain't easy.
Yeah. You do it all the time.
West Coast is one thing. Europe, States is another. So, it's a big plus for Jacksonville to be there a whole extra week and get your body clock set.
Yeah. Bill's coming off a Dolphin game, then having to travel to Europe. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, and then they get to come home again. Who's our next home game after that? Giants?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, Giants.
Oh, the schedule's insane. The schedule's absolutely insane for the Bills this year.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. And unfortunately, because you get 9 home games, you get 8. You get 9, you get 8. Now that we went to 17. But one of our home games is London.
That's right. Yeah.
So, okay, we get to stay on that side of the field. That's not a home game.
Well, then I tell you, I will tell you this: there will be more Bills fans in the stands than Jaguars fans. I could promise you that. So if you take that into consideration, okay, but still not the same.
Yeah, listen. I believe the last time the Bills played in London was Jacksonville, and did I get that right? I think it was Jacksonville, and they lost, we were heavily favored, and we lost. I kind of remember like a 35-31 game or something.
Well, I do remember there was the EJ Manuel quarterbacked the one game, and he was just terrible. And then the Bills were getting killed, and then he brought him. He almost won the game at the end.
Okay, that's the way it went. Yeah.
Yeah. Because he threw a pick 6. It was terrible, and a bunch of other interceptions, I think, in the first half. Then in the second half, he comes back, from a huge deficit, and the Bills almost win, but don't. So yeah, that'll be interesting. And so that means for you, your kickoff is at 6:30.
6:30.
Yeah.
6:30 for that game. And I will be up.
Well, that would mean a tailgate starts at 3:30 in the morning if you were to do it.
My tailgate is DoorDash with some egg whites and Starbucks latte.
Phenomenal. Phenomenal. So you're coming home. That's awesome. So when you do come home, obviously, and I'm not going to tell people to come and try and find you, but obviously you have your haunts clearly when you come back to town. And
Sure.
will you be doing the tailgate? Are you going to be with Pinto Ron doing the ketchup and the mustard or any of that nonsense in the pregame?
I won't be doing there'll be no those that ship has sailed. But I will get there early. Yeah, I'm going to go with my younger son, and he's like, I remember when we came home for that Patriots perfect playoff game that we had a couple of years ago, and the game started at 8:15 at night, and I said, so what time, boys? I had both of my sons with me. Should we go over like about 6? And they're like, how about like 3? And I'm like, a little cold out. All right. But no, I part of the joy. And I've said this a million times, and I'll say it a million more in my life. And I just had this conversation over dinner with some football fan friends that we had, and I said, y'all can talk about all your fan base and that, but you've never seen anything until you're in Buffalo. I mean, and I really mean it. I've been to games. Yeah, there's great fans everywhere, but you've never seen. Listen, the biggest tailgate event in LA is when the Bills come to town. What they do here in the parking lot, and they organize things. And there's a little casino next to SoFi. I went there last Rams, kicked off last year, and there's 4,000 people in there, and that's just at this little tailgate event. It's one of the joys of my life, which is why I want to get back this weekend, because I like to get there early. I like to walk through the parking lot. I like to be around the energy of what it is to be in my beloved hometown. And with these fans, there's just nothing like it anywhere. There just isn't in any sport, really.
Before we let you go, we got to ask you. So obviously we know about the writer's strike, but the actor strike is still a thing as well. So talk about, as simplistically as you can for the people viewing, the sort of the dynamics of what has gone on, what is going on, what the future looks like in terms of, projects that are maybe have been backburnered and might eventually get going. What do you hope gets restarted for you or started from the get-go for you?
Well, a little, the basic strokes, and believe me, I'm not on any of the negotiating committees, and I don't know the true, dotting the I's and crossing the T's of what they're asking for. But I do know the broad strokes. A lot of it is residuals, and it's making a project and having a studio sell that project over and over again. And the actors, we had a pretty good deal in the days of like Blockbuster, with DVDs and VHS and stuff like that. But then when things changed and Blockbuster went away and new media and streaming and that, all of a sudden studios claim, like I said, I'm not an expert at this, but let's put it this way. 20 years ago, we got residuals way more than now. But I also want to add too, again, I don't have the specific numbers, but I'm pretty close here. Out of every $100 I've been told that a studio makes on a project, let's say you do a series and they sell it over and over, there's a piece of the pie for the actors, there's a piece of the pie for the directors and the writers. The actors' piece of the pie, what they split up residual wise, it's like $1 out of every $100 that the studio makes.
Wow.
People think that we're asking for 50%. No, that's how low it is. And the writers get a little bit more than that, and the directors get about the same as the actors. But we're not talking about monster numbers. We're talking about numbers that are fair. And that's why I support both of these strikes. Did everybody lose out? Sure, studios. There's no new programming coming on. You see the advertisement for ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox. What do they got? New game show, new reality show, new this. There's no new dramatic programming on or comedic programming. Not now. It's reruns of things.
Yep.
So it's going to take a while to have the ship get up there. Everybody lost a lot, but every once in a while, these things have to happen in order to go, hold on, before you just absolutely take a big boot and stomp us. Stop. Let's get fair about this. And that's my belief of what's happening. And I'm 100% with the Screen Actors Guild, no matter how long it takes. I could tell you this: in the summer, I had a couple of indie films that I was going to go work on that were actually out of the country, and they might have gotten the green light from Screen Actors Guild because they were indie films. They were not connected to a studio or a streaming service, which was the big issue for the Screen Actors and Writers Guild. But you know what? Both of the productions pulled the plug because they're like, we don't want to step on any toes for the future. We don't want to cross any lines. And I get it. Okay, so those things didn't happen. Will they come back again? We shall see. Let's put it this way, Rich. I don't worry about it as much as I used to. I'm an old guy now. I go with the flow, babe. I go with the flow. As long as I got some Labatt Blue in the fridge, I'm good.
That's right. That's right. A little blue and your Bills and Sabres, who, by the way, the Sabres, I think, have something like 5 preseason games this week. And you had to be really excited about last year and the strides they made as a fan.
Well, I got to tell you, come on. The Sabres, again, I'm a Buffalo guy. I'm going to root for them, do everything I can. But last year, come on, we were watching something that was young. We found a coach, and he's with us, and we're finding this groove with these players, and watching Tage is just like, he's a superstar in the making. But I'll tell you, one of the season finished up with something that really made me smile. And that's this young goaltender. And I'm really excited about him. I really am. He's young, and it's not easy coming into the NHL, but I think we got our guy.
Yeah.
He's
got all the tools. He's got a good head on his shoulders. Like, seemingly most of the rest of this team, it seems like every one of these kids are, really coachable, really hard workers. I mean, they check all the boxes. Seemingly, they all are super talented kids. Most of them were drafted high. As you know, in the NHL, guys don't start clicking till 3, 4, 5 years after they've been drafted. So that's kind of what we're seeing now in the NHL with the Sabres, which is awesome. I got to ask you, did you know RJ at all? Did you have a relationship with RJ at all?
RJ?
Rick Jeanneret.
No, I did not. Only that I just, I could hear the voice out of 100 people and go, that's Rick Jeanneret right there. We just grew up with it, you know?
For sure.
But no, I'd never had the pleasure.
Yeah, he was a great man, and we're certainly missing him going forward. And we miss you, but not for long, thank God, because you're coming back. So we hope to see you in person this weekend, someplace at Highmark Stadium around the tailgates. Folks, keep your eyes out for a Bill Fichtner walking around. He's probably going to be So will you be wearing what's your jersey? Do you wear a jersey? Do you wear an old snap vinyl coach's jacket?
I'm telling you, I'm like such a creature of habit. If I do one thing, all right, let me give you an example. Like 5 years ago, somebody at work, I was working on his television show, Mom.
Yeah.
One of the guys at work who was a big fan of another team, it was the last day of the season, and he wrapped it. It was a gift. I came home, I opened it up. It was a little Buffalo Bills gnome.
Yep.
So I put him in the front yard. Well, I moved him the other day when before the Raiders game. I was like, after the Jets game, I'm like, he's not liking the view where he is right now. So I put him in another spot. Then we won. I'm out in the front yard today, and I'm like, you're going to stay here until we lose. I'm the same way when I go to a Bills game. I got a blue short sleeve shirt that has the old Buffalo, red Buffalo on it, like the old Buffalo nickel.
Yeah.
That's my shirt. That's my shirt. I go to a game, I wear that shirt.
Perfect. And
So,
it's supposed to be LA weather on Sunday. So
that's what I hear. It's supposed to be gorgeous.
Yeah, man. As always, Buffalo loves you. We can't wait to see you this weekend, man. Keep rooting from the left coast for everybody that's a Bills fan and a Sabre fan. And we can't wait to see you on whatever screen you end up on next. We can't wait to see you again, man. Thanks for doing this. We really appreciate you as always.
No, appreciate you too, man. We'll see you soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, man.
Peace out, Buffalo.